Hi guys, and welcome to climatic injuries. In this video we're going to cover hot climatic injuries like dehydration and hyperthermia, or heat stroke in other words. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so first off, what are climatic injuries? Climatic injuries are usually, in most cases, injuries that we get from the temperature around us. So if we're in a hot climate like the desert, we can get a heat stroke and we can get dehydrated. However, climatic injuries are not always because of the environment. You can also get a heat stroke, for example, when you are sick or when you're laying a ton of different layers on top of you, so you're getting really hot. You can also get dehydrated in very cold environments. So keep in mind that even though we're learning about hot climatic injuries, these things can happen in any environment. The definition of dehydration is when a person doesn't have enough fluids in his body balance. And when a person is dehydrated, we will usually see that he is thirsty, he has pale skin, he has a fast pulse, he has a headache, he has nausea. When he goes to the bathroom, then his pee will be more dark, and usually he'll have less pee than regularly. These are the signs for dehydration. Now keep in mind, a dehydrated person might not have all of these signs, but even if we only see a few of these signs, then that already shows us that he is probably dehydrated. Okay, now for the treatment. The treatment is pretty straightforward. We first want to take him to a chill and shadowy place where he can rest, and then we want to give him water. Now keep in mind, people who are very dehydrated will have a really hard time to drink water. And so if that is the case, we would want to give him water and tell him to drink it with small sips and give him time to drink it slowly. If he can't drink it or it doesn't help him, then I recommend calling a medic or even bringing him to the hospital. Now let's talk about avoidance really quickly. Why do people become dehydrated in the first place and how we can avoid that? Usually people become dehydrated because they didn't drink enough water, or because they drank a lot of water but they drank it in one time instead of drinking it over time. And I want to explain this really quickly. When I was a field trip medic, I was obviously walking a lot with different groups who were hiking, and it was interesting to see a lot of times people who were dehydrated told me they drank a lot of water. Now, this is good. Like, drinking water is never a bad thing. But the thing is, they drank it at the beginning of the trip and then they didn't drink anything. So even if they drank 1 liter of water at the beginning, they peed most of it, and then they got slowly dehydrated. So it's very important to not drink, to drink over time instead of just drinking everything in one go and thinking that you drank a lot. For your body to actually absorb it, over time is better. And also, people get dehydrated usually when they sweat a lot. So that means very hot weather, or when they are working out really hard. So just keep this in mind. If you're working out or you're hiking in hot weather, drink a lot of water, guys. It's never a bad thing. Okay guys, now let's talk about hyperthermia, or in other words, a heat stroke. The definition of hyperthermia is when a person's body temperature is over 40 degrees Celsius. Now, we check this usually rectally, which I know most people don't really feel comfortable with doing that. That's what medics do. They check the temperature rectally in cases of emergency. That is a lot more accurate. However, if you're thinking about orally, then it is above 39.5. So again, the definition of hyperthermia is when the body temperature is above 40 degrees Celsius rectally or 39.5 orally. Okay, but what is hyperthermia? We understand that when a person's body temperature is high, he gets it. But what is actually happening? Well, you know how when you're frying an egg, then you have the egg whites, the protein? which slowly turns into hard from liquid. And after it became hard, you can't really turn it back to liquid again, right? Well, the same thing happens inside our brain when we're getting a heat stroke or hyperthermia. The proteins in our brain are becoming hard, and after they became hard, they can't really become liquid again. So that means that the damage from hyperthermia is permanent, and hyperthermia is extremely dangerous. Okay, so what are the signs of hyperthermia? Well, the first indicator is changing degrees of consciousness. A person who is getting hyperthermia might become apathic, but he also might become aggressive. He might give answers that just make no sense, and he might become a bit foggy. Another thing is he might completely lose consciousness, and if he did lose consciousness, then he might spasm as if he is having an epilepsy attack, and he might pee himself. In some cases of hyperthermia, his skin might become very blushed and moist, he might get nausea, and he might vomit. Now keep in mind, usually when people are getting hyperthermia, it's usually in situations where it's really hot outside or they're working out really intensely. And so I think the biggest indicator would see if a person collapses. If a person collapses in a situation where it's really hot or it was immediately after or when working out, we should immediately suspect for hyperthermia. Now keep in mind one more thing. Dehydration and hyperthermia are completely two different things. You can get hyperthermia when you're dehydrated, and it's actually more likely. If you're dehydrated, it's going to be easier to get hotter and to get hyperthermia. However, you don't have to be dehydrated to get it. You can get it even if you drink a lot of water. It happens because you get too hot. So these are completely two different things. And if we are not sure if our patient has dehydration or hyperthermia, we should treat him as if he has hyperthermia, because that is a lot more dangerous. Okay, so now for the treatment. How do we treat hyperthermia? The first thing we want to do is to take him to a chill and shadowy place if we can. If we can't, it could be a good idea to ask a bunch of people around to make shadow on him, to block the sun so he can get a bit cooler. And most important part is to get him as cold as we can with water. We would want to spill at least 40 liters of water on him. And please keep in mind, don't spill it on his mouth. He is already spasming and unconscious, so he probably doesn't have any reflexes. We need to be really careful not to spill it on his face. So we spill 40 liters of water on him to cool him down, and we want to check his body temperature with a thermometer. Now we want to check and see that he is actually having hyperthermia, and we want to make sure that he gets below 37 degrees Celsius rectally, or 36.5 degrees if we're checking orally. It's preferably better to check rectally. However, again, if you're not comfortable, check orally. I'm the last person who will tell you to push a thermometer to a person you don't know. Okay, so you want to check it every 10 minutes, and you want to make sure that you cool him down, and you don't want to evacuate him until his temperature gets below what I just said, below 37 degrees Celsius rectally. Now keep in mind, it's also important, if you can, to make sure that his airway is clear. So if he has any puke in his mouth, anything blocking his airway, we want to clean his airway as well. However, again, the most important part with hyperthermia is to cool him down. We can also take him to a room that has air conditioner, or actually this is very recommended, that in the car headed to the hospital, he will have open windows and air conditioner blasting full on. Okay, now let's talk about avoidance really quickly. To not get hyperthermia, please make sure that when you're working out, you are taking a few breaks in between, even if it's an intense workout, so you will not get too hot. Make sure you sleep enough at night, that you guys wear loose clothing. and that you guys drink enough water. And last thing is, don't work out or work outside really hard at the hottest hours of the day. Okay, and that's it for this video, guys. Please stay safe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.